For 10 years, my wife Sarah used to say, my cooking was the reason she fell in love with me. I wasn't a professional chef, just a guy who found joy in the kitchen, a joy I loved sharing with her. Our little Seattle apartment always smelled of whatever new recipe I was trying. She'd walk in, her face lighting up, and say, "What magic are you making today?" It was our ritual, our language of love. Then about 6 months ago, the magic died. It started subtly. She'd come home late, claiming a new project at her marketing firm was eating up her time. When she did make it for dinner, she'd pick at her food. "It's delicious, honey," she'd say, but her eyes were distant, her fork barely moving. Soon, delicious turned into, "I'm just not that hungry," and then I ate at the office. My heart ached a little more with each rejected meal. I tried her old favorites, the cioppino that reminded us of our first date, the creamy risotto she once craved. Nothing worked. The kitchen, once the heart of our home, grew cold and silent. One evening, I decided to surprise her. I booked a table at Canlis, the kind of place you go for anniversaries and big celebrations. I thought maybe a night out, with someone else doing the cooking, would break this strange spell. When I told her, she froze. A flicker of something I couldn't read, panic maybe, crossed her face before she forced a smile. "Oh, honey, that's so sweet," she said, her voice tight. "But I have a client dinner. It's last minute. I'm so sorry." Another excuse. The sting was sharper this time. That night, I sat alone, the silence of the apartment deafening. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. I wasn't the jealous type, but the constant excuses, the emotional distance. It was building a wall between us. My mind drifted back to a name she'd mentioned a few times with unusual enthusiasm. Julian. He was a new culinary consultant her firm had hired. She'd gushed about his innovative approach to food branding. I'd brushed it off at the time. The name echoed in the silence. Driven by a suspicion I hated to acknowledge, I did something I never thought I would. I opened our shared credit card statement online. My eyes scanned the list of charges, and there it was, not once but multiple times a week for the past 2 months. Charges from a restaurant I'd never heard of, a trendy, upscale place downtown called Aperture, and next to it, another name I recognized, Julian's full name, on a recurring charge for a gourmet meal delivery service. It all clicked into place with a sickening thud. The late nights, the lack of appetite. She wasn't eating at the office. She was dining with him. She hadn't just lost her appetite for my cooking. She had developed a taste for someone else. The discovery didn't trigger an explosion of rage. Instead, a cold, chilling calm washed over me. The love I felt for her, the warmth that had filled me for a decade, just evaporated. In its place, something else began to grow. Plan. My kitchen, the stage of my rejection, would now become the theater of my revenge. I knew Sarah's firm was gearing up for its biggest event of the year, the annual gala for their top clients. It was the pinnacle of her career, and this year, she was in charge of the entire thing. The highlight of the evening was always the food, catered by a celebrated chef, and I knew exactly who they had hired this year. Julian. I started my own kind of research. I spent days learning everything I could about Julian's restaurant, Aperture. I studied its menu, its suppliers, its reviews. I even created a fake profile and joined online foodie groups he was active in, learning his culinary philosophy, his signature techniques, his ego. He was talented, I'd give him that, but he was also arrogant, convinced of his own genius. His biggest pride was his exclusive secret supplier for microgreens and rare herbs. A small organic farm outside the city. That was my entry point. I paid a visit to the farm, a picturesque place run by an elderly couple. I didn't mention Julian. Instead, I presented myself as a passionate home chef starting a small, private catering business. I charmed them, shared my own recipes, and showed genuine interest in their work. I bought a few things, paid in cash, and left with their trust and a schedule of their delivery routes, including the one to Aperture. The gala was 2 weeks away. My plan was meticulous. The day before the event, I knew a large delivery of Julian's precious unique herbs would be made to the restaurant. Using the schedule I'd gotten from the farm, I intercepted the delivery van during one of its stops. It was shockingly easy. A quick swap of a few key boxes was all it took. The boxes I put in their place looked identical, but their contents were different. I had spent days sourcing bland, common herbs that mimicked the appearance of Julian's prized ingredients, but lacked all their distinct flavor and aroma. The night of the gala arrived. Sarah looked stunning in a black gown, a nervous excitement in her eyes. "Wish me luck," she said, giving me a quick, distracted kiss. "It's a huge night." "Oh, I know," I replied, my voice steady. "I have a feeling it will be unforgettable." I didn't go with her. Instead, I stayed home, picturing the scene. I imagined Julian in the bustling event kitchen, a culinary general commanding his troops. He'd be confident, barking orders, plating his masterpieces. But as the first courses went out, a confused murmur would ripple through the crowd of Seattle's elite. The food would look beautiful, but it would taste flat, lifeless, the subtle. Complex flavors Julian was famous for would be completely absent. Panic would start to creep into his eyes. He'd taste the dishes, his face turning pale. He'd check his ingredients, realizing the herbs, the very soul of his cooking, were imposters. But it would be too late. The damage would be done. My phone buzzed around 10 p.m. It was Sarah. Her voice was a choked whisper. "It's a disaster. A complete disaster. The food, it's terrible. Everyone is complaining. Julian is having a meltdown, my boss. He's furious." I listened, my face impassive. "I'm so sorry to hear that," I said calmly. The fallout was spectacular. Julian's reputation was shattered overnight. His contract was terminated, and the story of his epic failure at the gala became the talk of the town's culinary scene. Sarah's career was collateral damage. Her boss, humiliated in front of his biggest clients, blamed her for the entire fiasco. She was demoted. Her star project turned into a career-ending catastrophe. A week later, she came home to find my closets empty and my bags packed. She finally broke down, confessing everything through sobs, begging for forgiveness. I just looked at her, the woman I had loved, now a stranger. "You know, Sarah," I said, my voice quiet, "the funny thing is, you hated my cooking. But in the end, it was a chef who truly destroyed you." I left our apartment and never looked back. I moved across the country, starting over. Sometimes I still cook those old recipes, the cioppino, the risotto. They don't taste of heartbreak anymore. They taste of freedom. And in the quiet of my new kitchen, I find a different kind of magic, one that belongs only to me. Thanks for listening. If you connected with this story, please follow for more.